Hello everyone. I hope you are doing well. So the lesson of today is about the way waiters should welcome guests in restaurants. Okay, in this lesson we're going to see the techniques, the qualities, the assets and the traits waiters or servers in general should have when they welcome guests to restaurants. Uh, and restaurants, they can be separately high-class restaurants or people working in hotels, and some hotels also include or have restaurants. So this is going to be beneficial for both parts. So let's go and analyze and scrutinize every aspect on its own. So we're going to see some procedures, and the first procedure is acknowledge and welcome guest. To make guests feel welcome and important whenever any guest arrives, it is responsibility of the service staff to approach and meet the guest with a smile, maintaining eye contact and greet the guest accordingly at the door. So when we speak about the staff of the restaurant or the restaurant in the hotel in general, so restaurants in general, the staff should be very professional first, and then they should smile all the time, because as I always repeat, smile is the key to success. And politeness, we all should be polite when dealing with the people, and especially when receiving or welcoming guests to restaurants. It is our duty, or the duty of the servers in general, to be to deal very and to behave in a very polite manner. In fine dining, guests are generally welcomed by hosts or hostess, or maybe even by the owner, but in normal cases, a server or a waiter or a waitress may be the first person who acknowledge and welcome guests. Okay, this is very important. Sometimes the owner or the possessor of the company or the restaurant welcomes the guests, but most of the time, the first contact between the guest is between the first contact on the part of the guest. He or she faces the waiter or the waitress, server in general. So this first contact should be very intact and clear and clean, so as to keep, as I always say, the reputation of the company or the institution you are working for. Each and every employee should have the training to greet guests. The employee who greets the guest should use very brief but welcoming phrase to greet guest. Must remember, ladies should be greeted first. Okay, the proverb, or the saying that says ladies first. This rule we apply it here also. When you welcome, for example, the husband and his wife, or a boy and his girlfriend, I don't know, you should greet the lady first, and then greet the boy or the man, or the male in general. Procedure number 2: check guest reservation and ask about special need. To be ensured whether guests have any reservation or booking, ask guest politely. For example, do you have any reservation? If the answer is yes, then ask for guest's name by saying, may I have your name, please? Check your reservation book and repeat the reservation back to the guest. Okay, here to make sure this happens more specifically or more particularly for people, for example, going from country to country, and they make a reservation in certain hotel, and in the hotel or the hotel they make a reservation for includes the restaurant. So when they arrive to that hotel and they, for example, want to have breakfast or lunch or dinner, it depends on the timing, uh, the server should make sure that the reservation or the booking is is intactly and well done. If there is one guest who comes without reservation, then instead of saying, "Are you alone, sir?" you could ask, "Table for one person?" If you have enough free table, then ask, "Do you have any preference, sir, like sitting in a smoking or non-smoking area or near the window, etc." So, okay, the people or sometimes people come alone and you don't know if they smoke or not. So there is no problem if you ask them about their preferences. It means the place where, okay, where they would like to have a seat. Ask about special need. For example, if there is a child in the group, then ask guest whether the baby needs any high chair or not. Uh, this happens with children, with disabled people, okay, handicapped people. So whenever there is something which is abnormal or which goes against the stream, it means something that is not usual for you. Uh, Try to improvise, and when improvising, try to improvise politely as usual. Procedure number 4: how to arrange sitting capacities. Allocate table according to the number of guests or size of the party. Young couples tend to choose corner or near window to have romantic moment. Elderly or disabled guests should be seated near an entrance so that he or she would not need to walk much. Okay, this is what I said before for disabled people. It's something which is okay, unusual for the institution, but of course in real life, disabled people also they have the right to enjoy their rights. For the couples, we have different categories that come to the restaurant. So the server should be very professional. Professionalism tells the server in general where to put each category in the space of the restaurant. Loud, noisy parties could be arranged in private rooms or at least in the back so that other guests don't feel discomfort. Above all, if guests wish to get seated in particular areas and if situation permits, then try your best to offer that. So here, sometimes, for example, birthday parties or okay, people celebrating different occasions or different events. So try to improvise also and try to have a special and appropriate place where this category can have their party safely so as not to disturb other guests. Procedure number 5: lead guest to the table. Do not walk too fast. Maintain very small distance, not more than 1 meter away from guest, and look back at the guest rapidly. While you would reach the table, say, "Will this table be all right for you, sir?" Okay, when you accompany the guest to the table, don't tend to move very fast because you don't know what's the situation or the circumstances with the guest. He or she might have problem with his knees or moving slowly. So you are in the front, and from time to time you try to look back to see the guest if he is near you or not. And when you reach the place or when you reach the table where he or she is supposed to sit, tell him or tell them in general, okay, if he or she, is this table enough for you? Is it appropriate? Would you like to change the place? So try to be nice and try to be polite. Maintain eye contact throughout. Maintain eye contact throughout. Keep smiling and escort the guest to the table. Show the way by walking in front of the guest. Okay, this is what I have just said earlier. Procedure number 7. Okay, sorry. Procedure number 6: help the guest while sitting. in a courteous manner, pull the chair out so that there would be just enough space for the guest to enter. Lady guest should be seated first with the best view of the restaurant, then the gentleman. So as I said, uh, okay, ladies first. The lady should be seated first, and then her husband or her boyfriend, okay, whatever, okay, whoever is okay accompanying her. While helping lady guest to be seated, stand behind the chair, push with two hands on the chair shoulder, and keep the right toe at the base of the chair so that the guest can sit comfortably. Help the kid to get into pull high chairs. Okay, here sometimes a family comes, for example, a husband, his wife, and their kid. Try to put or try to have the lady guest seated first, and then the little child with a special chair because he cannot reach the table if he's not seated comfortably, and then the man. Procedure number 7 before leaving the table. At this stage, the hostess or host or greeter should leave the table and return to the reception desk to welcome and continue sitting procedure for other guests. Server may be busy in other table. Before leaving the table, host or greeter should let the guest know that server has been informed and will come very shortly. Okay, so when you have when you have your guests seated, you go back to the reception because you are going to continue your work because a lot of clients and guests come on a regular basis. A very good gesture from a server should be come to the table and say, "I am very sorry, madam. We are very busy at the moment. I will be with you in minutes." Prior to leaving the table, wish the guest. At this stage, server will take over the table to complete next steps. Okay, so sometimes the restaurant is very full, full of guests. Okay, the service is very busy, especially for example in summer times, and I don't know, for example, okay, special events, the restaurant is very full. So there is no problem if you come back to the guest and tell them, "I'm sorry, I'll be with you in a minute," and bring you what you would like to order. Here we have some final remarks. Okay, be friendly but very polite and courteous all the time. So I emphasize politeness, politeness, politeness. Always speak with a clear and confident tone. One of the ways to appear professional is to have self-confidence. And as I said before, don't have over self-confidence. Okay, self-confidence sometimes can put you in major situations and in risky incidents. Keep smiling throughout so that the guests feel comfortable. Again, smile or the smile is the key to success. Okay. Instead of keeping saying sir or madam all the time, address guests by their name or by their names at least twice in the whole conversation. Sometimes the guest feels very bored when telling them madam or sir all the time, so there is no problem to call them by their names from time to time. Finally, guests with a reservation should always be given more preference than walk-in guests. Okay, so here is the last remark. Please try to take these remarks into consideration. These, I believe, are the procedures and the remarks and the techniques and the qualities of a good server. If you think to become a very professional server in a restaurant, why not? So try to take these into consideration. Okay, now we move to the part of the exercises.
Well, hi there. What are you looking for today? I'm just looking. Well, how about a ring for someone special? There is no one special. Well, take a look at the CD player. A great bargain today only. Nah, I already have one. Plus the handle is cracked. Okay. Well, what about this genuine leather jacket? It would look great on you. Let me take a look at it. Sure. There are stains on the sleeves. I'll pass. Okay, well, wouldn't you like to walk home with some of these great records? Some of the best hits from the 1960s. Yeah, let's see. Now, here's something these records are scratched. Just in a couple places. Listen, I'll sell you these 10 records for $50. A steal. Whoa, they're way too expensive. I'll give you $25 for them. Come on! I can't charge you less than $30 and break even. Well, that guy over there is selling similar records for a much better price. So thanks anyway. Wait. You drive a hard bargain. $28 and that's my final offer. I'll think about it. Wait. Listen, I'll even throw in this vase. Now what am I going to do with the vase? Well, you can give it to that someone special when you find her, and this ring would look great with it. Oh, I'll stick with the records. Wait. Listen, I'll even throw in this vase. Now what am I going to do with the vase? Well, you can give it to that someone special when you find her, and this ring would look great with it. Oh, I'll stick with the records.
Okay, by the way, this noise you hear in the record is the conversation between the two guys is taking place in a street market. Okay, so don't get surprised. Because I think it's a little bit noisy and I don't know, to some of you might seem fast, so I'm going to repeat the record.
Hi there, what are you looking for today? I'm just looking. Well, how about a ring for someone special? There is no one special. Well, take a look at the CD player. A great bargain today only. Nah, I already have one. Plus the handle is cracked. Okay. Well, what about this genuine leather jacket? It would look great on you. Let me take a look at it. Sure. There are stains on the sleeves. I'll pass. Okay, well, wouldn't you like to walk home with some of these great records? Some of the best hits from the 1960s. Yeah, let's see. Now, here's something these records are scratched. Oh, just in a couple places. Listen, I'll sell you these 10 records for $50. A steal. Whoa, they're way too expensive. I'll give you $25 for them. Come on! I can't charge you less than $30 and break even. Well, that guy over there is selling similar records for a much better price. So thanks anyway. Wait. You drive a hard bargain. $28 and that's my final offer. I'll think about it. Wait. Listen, I'll even throw in this vase. Now what am I going to do with the vase? Well, you can give it to that someone special when you find her, and this ring would look great with it. Oh, I'll stick with the records.
Okay, we've got here, I think, five questions. So the first question says, why did the man not buy the ring for sale? So you've got there 3 options for each answer. 2, what is the problem with the CD player? 4, the man is not interested in the leather jacket because. 4, what is the customer's initial counter offer for the records? 5, and finally, from the conversation, what does the customer probably purchase from the merchant in the end? Okay, the last part, which is about written, as usual, it includes, or it is divided into 2 parts or into 2 tasks. The first one says, paraphrase the course in a very coherent paragraph. So we are going to reproduce or rewrite the lesson in your own style. 2, suppose you want to make a reservation in a hotel. What are the facilities would you like to include in the folio? 3, you want to make a reservation in a restaurant. What are you going to order? And imagine that you have a situation with a guest. There is a problem with the guest. How are you going to deal with him? So based on the title, welcoming the guest, what have you learned from the lesson? How are you going to deal with the guest? Are you going to fight with him or call the supervisor? How are you going to handle the situation? So as usual, if you've got any question or remarks, you are welcome to contact me at any time. I wish you the best of luck.